So I just want to know a little bit more about ITFC's um, idea or vision for regional integration. So can you just tell me, can you give me examples of some initiatives where ITFC has advanced regional integration and collaboration as well?
Sure, I
Yeah.
mean, with pleasure. Because as you know, ITFC is kind of a unique multilateral. We are a multilateral institution that is focused on trade, and we operate in 4 continents. So this gives ITFC a unique perspective and a unique advantage compared to some other institutions that maybe they only have trade as part of their mandate or they only work in one continent. So if you look across all the multilateral sphere, ITFC stands out as focused on trade and operating on 4 continents. And as we all know, I mean, trade is about exchange of goods, services, commodities between different countries.
Right.
And being a multilateral, regional integration is part of the core of our mandate, which means, and this has even been proven during COVID. I mean, you remember we faced disruption of global supply chains in favor of more regional supply chains.
Right.
Yeah. So, for example, we have the Aid for Trade initiative for Arab states. This is the first ever regional integration program that ITFC started back in 2013, and with the first phase. Second phase, we launched it in 2021, post-COVID. So this aims at enhancing regional integration and regional trade among the Arab countries. So for example, we had a project to enhance the border crossing between 2 Arab countries, and this leads to reducing the time it takes to process goods from one country to the other. The second example that we have for regional integration program is the Arab-Africa Trade Bridges Program. So we took it a notch further, not only within one region, which is the Arab region, but between 2 regions, Arab region and Africa. Because we commissioned a study and we found that there is a missed opportunity of almost $125 billion worth of trade flows that could take place between Arab and Africa and African regions. So that's why we started the Arab Africa Trade Bridges Program since 2017. Alhamdulillah, we have been doing extremely well in that. And I'll just give you an example of some of the successful initiatives under it, like the business-to-business matching meetings for pharmaceuticals, because you have good pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in the Arab world, and you have a ripe and receptive market in Africa. So through the Arab Africa Trade Bridges Program, we have been able, through this business-to-business matching meeting, to create almost $85 million of new trade flows that did not exist if it weren't for the Arab Africa Trade Bridges Program. The most recent addition to our series of regional integration programs is the Trade Connect Central Asia Plus. So it's basically for the countries of Central Asia and Azerbaijan to enhance their own trading among each other as well as with the external world. The program is just being launched. In fact, the validation workshop was held in 2023. It was graced with the presence of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Al-Jasir, the chairman of the ISDB group. And now we are working towards launching, and we have started a couple of programs and initiatives under the Trade Connect Central Asia Plus program. So all in all, you would see in ITFC, we approach trade from a holistic approach. Trade is not only about trade financing, but it's about trade development, creating trade and creating trade flows, which is, I mean, the core mandate of a multilateral institution.
Right. Since you also just mentioned that there are a couple of projects in the pipeline that you're expecting to roll out, is that something that you see happening in the next 6 months to 12 months?
Absolutely. I would say this is something that's happening before the end of this year.
Right,
Before the end of this year, inshallah, we will see two projects being launched under the TCCA Plus program.
Right, okay, great, wonderful. So, I mean, you did talk about the impact as well of these trade financing initiatives. Can you also just tell me how ITFC's trade finance products have helped reduce economic pressures that OIC member states or ISDB member states are also facing? And how do you think these challenges can be tackled as well?
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually glad that you asked this question, okay? But allow me to tweak it a little bit.
Sure.
So it's the ITFC trade solutions, I would call it, not the products per se. Why do I say solutions? Because our approach to trade finance, as I said, it's a holistic approach. And I will take one example. The global SME program. Now, usually when financial institutions want to extend support to SMEs, they would just give them financing,
Right.
a line of finance. But guess what? This doesn't solve all the problem. In ITFC, we investigated, and we found that there are some lines of finance that we extend that are not utilized by SMEs. So when we dug deeper into the problem, we found two things. One, SMEs are unable to submit bankable files to the banks. So they apply for the line of finance, but they get rejected because either their financials are not up to the mark,
Right.
they don't have proper business planning, they don't have proper governance, they are not, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So SMEs have challenges. The second issue is that banks were analyzing SMEs as if they were blue chip companies, which is wrong. There is a different approach to analyze SMEs. So that's why we coupled our lines of financing with technical assistance. And so hence the ITFC Global SME program is both financing, line of finance, and technical assistance to the SMEs to upgrade their skill and their capacities, to allow them to talk properly to banks, so to speak, and to bring banks down to the level of SMEs and analyze SMEs the way SMEs should be analyzed. Alhamdulillah, this has resulted in a conversion rate of almost between 60 to 70%.
Right.
So you had, let's say, for example, out of 100 SMEs that were previously rejected by banks, after going through the SME program, both the SME and the bank, the result is that between 60 to 70 SMEs were able to obtain credit. And we have an example of one of the SMEs that during COVID, and we all remember how difficult things were during COVID. So we have a testimonial from one of the SMEs in Senegal that because of ITFC training for SME, and because it was during COVID, so we added something regarding how to build your business online. So our full training allowed us to help this SME convert her business into online and to do proper governance and financials and to obtain line of finance, a credit from a bank. And this allowed this business to thrive. This is just one example. It's an example on the ground of how an ITFC solution is able to support member countries and the economic operators in our member countries to withstand difficult situations.
Right, great. Okay, so it seems like there's a lot happening as well. So there's a lot of activity. So just on that, I was just wondering if have you noticed maybe that from a particular section or from a particular part of the world, there are more SMEs coming to you for solutions or have you noticed a particular trend of that sort?
Well, I mean, the trend is that everywhere.
Okay.
SMEs require support everywhere.
Of course,
It just depends, depending on the type of region, maybe the extent or the breadth of the requirement that is needed. So, but frankly, all SMEs require support, okay? Because SMEs need to go through a journey, and all of them have some teething problems, and there is no one solution that fits all. So it needs to be customized. Whether you are an SME in Saudi Arabia, whether you are an SME in UAE, in Indonesia, in West Africa, in Central Asia. So all SMEs have challenges. Some are similar and some are dissimilar. But the common factor is that SMEs need support everywhere.
Of course, yes. Because you also mentioned capacity building initiatives and human development as well. So would you say that is also core to what you are integrating into your program?
Absolutely. Okay. And that's why, I mean, you remember at the beginning I told you it's about ITFC solutions. Right. It's not about ITFC products. Right. And this was what distinguishes ITFC from other commercial banks. Because other commercial banks would just consider extending a line of finance to another bank. But then, as a developmental institution, we dig down deep into the root cause of the problems. Okay? So when we saw that our lines are not being utilized, we went down and understood why this is happening, and we tried to solve the root cause of the problem. So again, I mean, as a developmental institution, we have a push for profit, but a pull for development. And we need to always be cognizant and balance both aspects.
Of course, yes. So I'm also assuming that, you know, when there's so much collaboration and engagement happening across borders or across different regions, you will also have to leverage technology and innovation. So can you just speak to that as well and how you're using tech as part of your solutions?
Absolutely. I mean, this couldn't be more relevant than now.
Yeah.
And probably one good thing that came out of COVID, if anything, is the advancement of digital trade. So governments, shipping lines, insurance companies, and banks were forced to adopt quickly some digital solutions to allow them to process trade. So we are building on this momentum and on this wave in order for this push not to die, okay? Because trade has been more or less the same over the past 300 years. A bill of lading has always been a bill of lading, a certificate of origin, an insurance policy, et cetera, et cetera. So the shipping documents have been the same for the past 300 years. COVID was an inflection point that forced everybody to switch. So we're building on this momentum, and digital trade and e-commerce and electronic documents in trade is something that we are heavily invested in now. And we are working with the DSI, the Digital Standard Initiative of the ICC. We're working with the Africa Alliance for e-commerce. And we're trying to support our member countries and to help even their governments push forward policies that will allow them to adopt digital certificates, adopt electronic certificate of origin, and make it legally binding and legally enforcing, because this is the challenge. How do you make a digital document accepted in court? I mean, everybody's used to the physical document. So this is probably one of the biggest challenges that we're facing. But as a multilateral, we see this as part of our global development agenda, and we're helping our member countries and the institutions in our member countries to move towards that. Just about 3-4 weeks ago, my team was on the ground, okay, where they had to go through a journey of 700 kilometers on road to go to a checkpoint, a border checkpoint between two countries in Africa, to actually to witness and to facilitate the first ever shipment that moved through an electronic certificate of origin. Okay. It was endorsed by the customs of the first country and accepted by the customs of the second country, and the shipment passed through. Usually a process like this would take 2 days. But because they adopted electronic certificate of origin, it took less than 2 hours. Okay. So you can imagine all the efficiencies and all the multiplier effect that this will have on the economy, on the lives of people. I mean, it's just enormous. I mean, I wish that we can have an economic model that would quantify all the positive impacts. But at least, I mean, it's just to understand that this is the scale and the quantum that we are trying to work with, and we're trying to improve and in our member countries. So this is one. Second, again, I mean, so many things have been happening recently. Just last week in Riyadh, last Monday in Riyadh, our CEO signed with Forward 7 initiative. Forward 7 is an initiative by the Ministry of Energy in Saudi Arabia. It was under the G20, that came out of the G20 leadership of Saudi Arabia. And one of the companies and a local joint stock company in Saudi Arabia. So these 4 operators worked on an initiative for clean cooking. Now, clean cooking is a challenge, by the way, for 3.2 billion people on this planet. We might not realize it because we're privileged, but there are people who do not have proper equipment to do clean cooking. And by doing clean cooking, we're saving almost 2.3 million lives every year, because 2.3 million people, unfortunately, die prematurely every year, most of them women and children, because of using charcoal or wood for cooking, you know, in closed areas. So now, what does this got to do with technology and innovation? So these clean cooking kits, although it might not be or might not seem as a breakthrough in innovation, but for such communities, in fact, it is. Okay? And that's why we in ITFC, we got engaged. And guess what? By using these clean cooking kits, we are generating carbon credits. And now we're helping them sell these carbon credits to generate revenues. And these revenues will be invested again in the project, so which will create a virtuous cycle. So again, this is one of the examples of how ITFC, as well as the Trade Development Fund, which is managed by ITFC, is contributing to two things: technological innovation, as well as climate positive projects and impact that we want to have in our member countries.
All right. So I would take it that going green and sustainability are also very
Absolutely.
important to ITFC.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So I think this will bring me to the last question. Just want to understand a little bit about the future of ITFC and what your goals for the coming 3 to 5 years, if that's a time period that I can mention. Yeah, what would it be and what are you looking forward to?
Now, I mean, I will pick up right from where we ended in the previous question, where sustainability, climate is on top of the agenda of ITFC for the simple fact. If trade were to be a country or a nation, then trade would be classified either number 6 or number 7 in terms of harmful emissions.
Right.
So paying attention to the environmental impact of trade is important. And in ITFC, we are cognizant of this fact. That's why we have adopted our environmental and social safeguards policy by our board. And now we are rolling out the implementation plan, so that whether through our own operations, our own administrative operations, or we are extending it now to the trade flows that we are financing, we want to see how we can mitigate any harmful impact or harmful effect that result from the trade flows that we are financing. And by the way, for that, I mean, ITFC is starting 2022 through our partnership with VCM, the Voluntary Carbon Market Company, which is a PIF company, a Public Investment Fund company in Saudi Arabia. We started to offset our own administrative footprint. So all the business travel, all the commuting, all our office harmful emissions have been offset by carbon credit that are bought by ITFC. And now we're taking it one step further to go downstream to the trade flows that we are financing and how we can offset those and make environmental and social safeguards part and parcel of our due diligence and evaluation and analysis of all the trade flows that we are doing and we are financing. And we will be focusing more on giving technical assistance and grants and advisory services to our member countries as it relates to green and sustainability aspect. So that's number one. That's one key priority for us. Number two, again, we'd re-emphasize on digital trade and e-commerce, because this will allow, again, as a catalyst for trade, and this comes from the mission of ITFC, to be a catalyst for trade, because the volume of trade globally is in trillions of dollars. So no one single institution can have a sizable impact on its own. That's why we want to be more of a catalyst of positive change and to drive positive results. So, and we have identified digital trade and digital commerce as a key multiplier effect that will help us drive positive change in our member countries. Third key area is that we will be continue to focus our attention into coupling our financing with technical assistance and capacity building, because it has been proven since the revised ITFC strategy of 2017 that financing alone cannot make a difference by itself unless you couple it with some technical assistance or capacity building to maximize the impact of your financing. So while we will continue to increase our volumes of financing, while we will continue to diversify into more sectors, while we will continue going to the private sector, in parallel, we will be also focusing on extending technical assistance and capacity building, as well as advisory services, because ITFC has a lot of experience to offer as it comes to trade. So I would see this holistic approach for ITFC as it relates to the business model is what I can say would be the main highlights or features of the ITFC going forward. And today in the General Assembly of ITFC, the General Assembly approved the 10-year strategic framework for the ISDB group. And within that, we will be working in ITFC now to develop our own 5-year corporate strategy going forward.
Okay, so great things coming up then.
Yes, inshallah, absolutely.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Nasser.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate the discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.